You are now listening to BKO Ministries. Sit back, turn the volume up. It's time for another episode of Dollar Does It Nuggets from Pastor Brian. If you want to hear the whole sermon, go to m3dots.com and look for the picture of Pastor Brian O'Neill. Without any further delay, here's Pastor Brian.
If you have your Sunday school book, read the golden text for me, someone. I always wanted to do that. He that abideth, say that again. I always wanted to do that. Read that again. He that abideth, and I in him, the same, much fruit, Is that it? Come on, say amen. Hallelujah. John chapter 15, verse number 1 reads like this, says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it might bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. And he that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. And men gather them, and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Now herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you, and continue ye in my love. If ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and ordained you, that ye should go forth and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever ye shall ask of my Father, ask the Father in my name, he may give it you. These things I command you, that ye love one another. Hallelujah. So we will begin discussing this particular lesson after I ask this question. How many of you got an opportunity to read the lesson? All right. I see we got to do better, y'all. Can't have no discussion if you ain't read the lesson. But since this is a familiar lesson, and you not necessarily had to read it on this past week, tell me what you think about it. We just read it together. What is God saying here to us? Again, a parable that Jesus is teaching his disciples. Parables are illustrations that cause us to see clearly what he is saying naturally about a spiritual truth. He's giving us understanding of how the kingdom operates and a certain way the kingdom thinking is, the kingdom mindset. This is the way it is. And he illustrates that in picture form in terms of a vine and branches. So what is he saying here? In your own words, what do you think the interpretation is? Imperative to stay connected to him. Why? Okay. In order to have any life at all, you really have to stay connected to him. Eleanor?
Basically the same too, but I went even a little further as far as if you love somebody and follow the commandments, but at the same time as he calls us friends, even in friendship, even like with husband and wife, where there is union,
Mm-hmm.
there is love, and so even in friendship, there should be a covenant relationship that you would, like like a tree with the tree part and the branches, that we all bear fruit together.
Mm-hmm. So there should be a relationship between the branch and the vine. There should be covenant relationship there. Something that goes beyond just mere commitments. Let's look at, go ahead, Kim, let me get your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Okay. From what we've read, summarize it. If you had to explain to someone what this particular text just said in a capsule, what would you say? What would be the points that you would point out and say, this is what this particular thing, the message that this is trying to get across to me is this, this, and this? What would you say?
Well, I look at it if God said, saying unto us, if you do thy will, I will make a path for you. I'll give you a guidance and a direction. Whatever thou doest, thou shalt prosper. Wherever thou go, he will make a way. And whatever you try to build, because there's nothing you can build without the Lord being in the midst of it. So what he's saying, if thou do my will, I shall make a way for you.
Okay. What is his will?
His commandments.
What are his commandments?
His commandments is his words. And doing his commandments is.
I'm not trying to trip you up, but I'm trying to get you to see that if we don't see, we can say to do his will. What's his will? To do his commandments. What's his commandments? To do, and that's why we never do anything. That's why we never end up actually getting to the place where we do something, because we don't know or we don't define what he's saying in terms. No, I'm just giving a general idea of how the church kind of gets lulled to sleep into thinking or operating in something other than actually what he says. We find ourselves in all kinds of places doing all kinds of things and never really dealing with actually what he said. And it's very simple. When he dealt with the word command, he said, one of the things that I command you to do is love. I command you to love people, even as I have loved you. What other thing did he mention in this particular parable that he wants us to concentrate on, that we should be doing? I heard it. Fruitful. You have to bear fruit. What fruit is he looking for?
Bring souls in, increase the word.
Fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, patience, temperance, long suffering, peace, gentleness, kindness, so all these different things God is looking for to come out of our lives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's somewhere in there. Looking for all of these different fruit to begin to manifest out of our lives. And if you look at the thing, he says, I am the true vine. My Father is the one with the pruning scissors. He's the husbandman. He's the one that's taking care of this garden. He's the one that's taking care of this flower or this plant or whatever it is that he's trying to grow. He's the one with the intent towards that plant. It says, I'm the true vine. My Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me, say in me, that does not bear fruit, he takes it away. Every branch that is in me. So it's possible to be in him and not bearing fruit. Possible to be connected to him and not bearing fruit. But it takes someone else, the father, the husbandman, to look at that plant. I have it all set up here for you. It takes somebody to come along and do an inspection of this plant, because Jesus said, I am the true vine. I'm in here somewhere. This big, thick part down here. I'm the vine. My Father is the husbandman. He's the one that's dressing this thing up and got it looking all pretty and stuff. He comes along, and every branch that is in me that is not bearing fruit, he takes it away. Now, you and I have had plants before, and we walk in the house and we see our plants there, some with brown leaves hanging on them and stuff. The first thing, naturally, we walk up and grab them. I don't like how that looks. They're making the whole plant look bad, and you start picking them off and, turning the thing around and start picking it off to make sure that the beauty of the plant, which is what you're trying to obtain to beautify your home, you're making sure that this thing is looking the way it's supposed to look. This thing got little sticky things on the side of it. But you pluck up everything that's not right, everything that's not producing what you want it to produce. So that's the job of the Father. He comes along and he begins to prune and to pluck out those things which are not bearing fruit. And every branch that bears fruit, he messes with them too. So a lot of times there are things going on and you would think that God would give you a break. You're doing okay and you're bearing some fruit. You're starting to sense some of that love, and you're starting to sense some of that patience and joy that you never had before. And you're starting to walk in a certain level of peace. And you're trying to get that little temper under control and trying to bring some things in line. And then he pulls the scissors out and begins to cut. Why? So you can bring forth more fruit. He's not satisfied with that little joy you got in your heart and that little bit of patience that, he's worked out in you. It's time to bear more fruit. Continue to multiply. Remember, God's mindset is always profit and expansion. He's always spreading out and building and moving and growth. That's his whole mindset. Keep going up. Don't ever get satisfied. Don't ever get complacent. Don't ever get a victory and rest. Don't ever come to the place where I'm happy now and I'm satisfied with what God has done, because there's so much more. There's always, no matter how high you go, there's so much more. In God, you got to keep moving.
Thank you for listening. And as I said earlier, go to m3dots.com to listen to the whole sermon. Just look for the picture of Pastor Brian O'Neill. Oh, by the way, you can always join us for service 19600 Glenbard Road in Chicago Heights, Illinois. Go to m3dots.com and sync your schedule. I'm your host, Matty Lipsis, and I hope one day to meet you in person. Until then, let the Lord use you.